Okay, guys, thought experiment time. Let me ask you a question and just think about it for a second. Well, you won't even have to think about it that long. Would you rather enjoy every single day of your life or just those days when you reach a goal that some former version of yourself thought was impossible? I know this is a totally rhetorical question, but I used to be incredibly goal driven where I was only happy on those very rare occasions when I'd reached a goal that I thought was important. And then as soon as I had that goal in hand, I would move on to the next one and I'd be looking down the road for when I could make that next thing happen. And what I realized, and this was about 2 or 3 years ago when I had this sort of just revelation, I realized that for most of the time, about 99.5% of the time, I wasn't as happy as I could be. Since then, I've really focused more on living in the moment. So today, I'm going to give you guys 3 tips that I've personally used. I've researched these tips. Other people have used them as well. And there's some science actually behind this too that I've been reading about for learning to live in the moment. The first tip is to recognize what you've done every day if you can, or at least once or twice a week. Every night before I go to bed, I just sit and I think about what were the best parts of my day? What have I done today? And it doesn't matter so much what I've done, whether it be climb the highest mountain or just go out to the grocery store. I sit down and I think, hey, today I did this. I went to a grocery store. I went to Safeway and I bought groceries. I had that experience. And I don't have to be excited about it. I don't have to ramp up my emotions about it. I just have to remember and realize what I've done and take away the memory of that and make it more of a part of me. Because over time, by building up these experiences, your life becomes more rich. You realize all of the accomplishments, all of the experiences, all of the things that you've gone out and done. Now, this is also known as being grateful. I know a lot of people recommend being grateful every day for something. And to me, that just doesn't quite resonate. I'm not always grateful for everything all the time, but I can recognize everything all the time. So I interpret being grateful as being thankful or happy that something happened. And let's face it, there's a lot of times when things go on in your life when you're not so thrilled about it. So instead, I've used the recognition and just sitting down and taking a few moments to think about what it is I've done on a daily basis. And one of my most favorite questions actually to ask my wife when she gets home or when we're relaxing together in the evening is, what was your favorite part of the day? And she asks me the same in return. And that causes us to reflect back and automatically filter out the negative parts and focus only on the positive parts. So not only is there recognition of what's going on, of what I've done, but only focusing on the positive. And by dedicating that to memory, by recalling that and having it come back to you, it really creates a much more positive mindset, especially right before you go to bed. So that's my first tip, is just be cognizant and recognize what you've done, hopefully daily. If you can do it every day, that is perfect. Just once a day, even in the evenings, in the mornings, whenever, but as much as you can. Just try to shoot for daily and recognize what you've done. That's an incredibly powerful tip for making your life have more fulfillment, more purpose. Tip number 2, and this one is huge. I've done it myself. I know other people have done it. I've read about it on the internet as having worked for so many people, and it is so important. This is probably the most important tip, and that is make your life as happy as possible. Bring as much enjoyment into your life as you can, especially, and here's really the secret ingredient, especially when it comes to your career or your job. Why spend your life working at something that you just don't love, that's not a passion? I used to be in that position and for so many years, and it just threw a wet comforter on my level of happiness. I was just smothered. It was soul crushing. Don't be in that position. If you don't love what you do, make a change. And it could be a small change or just a small course correction to to turn your work into a happiness, into true passion. Or it could be a major pivot. Maybe you don't love your job at programming and you find out that you want to be a Vegas blackjack dealer. If that's what you love, go for it. Make as big of a change as you need to in order to turn your career into a passion. There's a lot of science out there to suggest that increases in earning do bring about some increases in happiness up to a point. And what I've read was that when you make more money, you do become happier until you reach about the $70,000 level. then studies have shown that many people that earn 70,000, just a little bit over or greatly over that, don't have a significant amount of difference in terms of happiness from their jobs. So once you sort of reach sort of a median or a threshold that's sustainable for you, any other gains after that have to be in the emotional department. Making more money isn't going to make you happier. Instead, go out and do something you enjoy. That's what's going to make you happy. An intern recently met with Warren Buffett, and I love the story. And he told Warren about his 10-year plan of working in different internships and taking on different entry-level positions. So finally, down the road, 10 years from now, he could be in the position that he absolutely loved. And Warren's response was, that sounds like saving sex for old age. What's the purpose? Instead, Warren recommended to this guy to work in the job now that he would as if he were already rich. In other words, go out and pick your dream job now. Don't worry about the money so much, but do what you love as soon as you can. And it is such a good piece of advice. I've made a career change. I'm so happy I did. I don't know why I waited so long, but so please, in all terms of your life, especially when it comes to occupation, make a change and make it quickly. Our society really stresses the idea of climbing the corporate ladder, pushing yourself, and having a go, go, go mentality all the time. Now, I believe that, and I agree with it, but only when it's directed towards pursuing your passions. If you were to take yourself and push yourself every morning when you get out of bed and just work as hard as you can in a direction or for a job that you don't enjoy, the only path that will lead to is burnout and frustration and unhappiness. You will eventually just collapse emotionally, mentally. You will perform well below your level. I know that because I've done it. I know other people have done that as well. But if you wake up every morning and you push yourself towards your passion and towards what it is that you love, your life is going to take on so much more meaning. You will have a greater feeling of accomplishment every day. You'll reach this new level of existence, a new level of sort of awareness that you didn't know was possible. I can't stress enough the benefits that will come from pursuing your passions on a daily basis. So please make those changes, especially when it comes to a career, as quickly as you can. That will help you learn to stay in the moment, enjoy the journey, and make every day just that much better. And here's a thought. If you were to work at something that you enjoy, what do you think your level of performance would be versus working at something that you don't enjoy? I know me. I know how I operate, how I perform. When I am giving 100% that I can, my output, my quality of work is so much higher if I'm enjoying it than if I'm not. Even if I'm working at putting the same amount of effort into something that just is not fun or not enjoyable, I can't ever reach the same level of quality that I can with something I do enjoy. And I do take pride in the work that I do. I feel there's a certain part of me, probably isn't a good part, but a certain part of me is connected and takes a little bit of self-worth from what I can do, what I can produce. So the better at it that I'm able to do, the happier I am in the long run. I know that's probably a topic for a whole nother video. Should you identify yourself with your job? Something to think about. Probably not. I'm thinking to go out on a limb here. I haven't looked into it yet, but probably not. But I know I do that. And I find that I am more self-confident if I am performing better, and I perform better if I do something I enjoy. It's really that easy for me. Tip number 3. And this tip is going to sound so cliche, but it's so important and so true. And I'm going to try to cast another light on it so we can look at it from a different perspective, just analyze it maybe a little bit differently than what you've heard before. But tip number 3 is stay in the moment. Now, the science out there, a lot of research has said that success does not bring happiness. Instead, it's the other way around. Happiness tends to lead to success. And also science has shown that if you are happy and you're moving in the right direction, you tend to have a lot more victories along the way. If you're able to live in the moment and recognize those victories, that will increase your overall happiness. A lot of people, and again, this ties back to what I was saying earlier, are very goal-driven. They're only happy when they have that success, which isn't the right way to live life if you're looking for a more positive outlook, a happier state of existence. If you're able to savor those victories along the way, you can build up those memories. Again, referring back to tip one, by recognizing what you've done, recognize those accomplishments, recognize those victories, and that can bring you a certain amount of happiness for when life tends to get tough. When you have a down moment, you can look back at something that was positive in your life, and it's going to steer you back in the right direction. Now, how do you stay in the moment? And this is really difficult to do, and I'm still practicing it. And that's really the key, is it's not going to be an overnight change, but something that will occur with time through practice. And what you have to do is you have to surrender yourself to the moment and slow down. Slow down your way of thinking, slow down the need for stimulation, observe more what's around you, just literally make yourself pay more attention to the ground, more attention to what's directly above you. Look at that tree blowing in the wind. There's a practice that I've used that is actually very beneficial, developed by monks that were coming out of deep periods of meditation. And what it is you go through each of your senses, and you will start with, say, sight. You will observe 5 different things that you can see. Then you will observe 5 different things you can hear. And if you can, try to observe 5 different things you can smell, and then touch 5 different things. You will focus on each one of those. You will say to yourself, I can see a tree blowing in the wind. I can see a river outside of my window. I can see the car going by. Just anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Just recognize 5 different things with that sense, then move on. I can hear a train in the distance. I can hear my tea kettle boiling. Just anything. I can hear the furnace. And stop and pay attention to those. Then, once you get through all 5 the first time, go to 4. Work your way down to 4. Observe 4 things visually. Listen to 4 things. And then do the same thing, 3, 2, 1. If it doesn't work, if you are still anxious, if you're still agitated, then repeat it. Do it again. And this practice, for me, this method has just worked miracles sometimes in terms of helping me to slow down, stay in the moment, relax. Our lives call for almost constant stimulation. Our schedules are so busy these days, and that's fine. But whenever you can, just observe what's around you. That will keep you more grounded and more centered in what's going on right now. Okay, I know I said 3 tips, but I've got a bonus tip. This one works very well, but it also takes practice, like tip number 3. This tip number 4, is detach yourself from expectations. So by this tip, I've used it quite frequently, especially in the last 6 months, and it works very well. I mean, don't hinge your happiness on outcomes. Don't expect things to go a certain way. Don't expect things to go at all. Don't expect things to go good or bad. Just accept what happens. This is difficult. I love it when good things happen. I love it when I, say, put in an effort into a project and I get good feedback. That makes me so happy. But instead, try this. Try doing something and don't expect anything back from it. We've all heard the phrase, it's better to give than to receive. This is a modification where it's just simply better to give and not to expect to receive anything back. That way, you can, to put it very simply, you can roll with the punches. You can roll with whatever comes in. When something good happens, it's a pleasant surprise. When something bad happens, it actually becomes sort of like, oh, an interesting observation. Look at that. That didn't go the way I planned. That's interesting. And then you can move on. You can do it again. You can accept that feedback. You can learn from your mistakes. You can make changes down the road. There's so much you can do with a situation that doesn't work out well, instead of pinning all your happiness on hoping that it does. I'll give you 2 contrasting scenarios just to illustrate this. Let's say I make a Thanksgiving dinner for my family. I probably would never do that by myself. I know what's involved. But let's say I just make a dinner for my family when they come to visit, for my wife, for my parents, for my sister, and I expect them to love it. I put my whole heart and effort into it. I worked many hours to make this lasagna, and they come over and they love it. Okay, first outcome, they love it. That's great. That's what I expected. If anything, I have a slight bump in happiness. But let's say it goes the other way. Let's say they don't love it. Let's say I accidentally burn it. It's not to their taste. Let's say there's some ingredients that they're sensitive to. They can't eat it. It turns out to be a flop. My expectation was that they would love it. Now I'm disappointed, severely disappointed. I'm kind of sad. Let's take this the other way. Let's say that I'm making dinner and I don't pin any sort of expectation. I don't even think about how it's going to come out. I'm just going to get this job done and serve people food. Okay, there. I'm putting pride into my work. I'm making the lasagna. I'm putting in the work. Now I serve it to the family. They love it. Oh, wow, they love it. That's a nice surprise. Then, conversely, they hate it. They don't like it. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Why didn't you guys like it? Sorry, it didn't turn out better. I wish it did, but what was it? Oh, okay. Too much tomato sauce, not enough, cheese. All right. Next time I'll do it better. Thanks for the feedback. I'm not happy with it. And yes, I will admittedly be disappointed, but not nearly as much as if I was hoping for them to love it. I can sort of manage my expectations. It works well in the business world too, of managing expectations. We've all heard that cliche. And that's essentially what this tip is for, is applying the concept of detaching yourself from outcomes or from expectations to your personal life. And it's going to make things so much better and so much easier. And it's actually going to increase the level of happiness because you don't expect that happiness to occur. This takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of work. So I encourage you to try this for weeks, if not months, and see what kind of effects it has for you. I know over time it will work. You just have to practice it. I had to practice it for quite a while. This is one of the more difficult tips that I've actually used. And it took a long time for me to bring it up to speed and for it to be effective. But it is effective and it does work. Okay, guys, thank you for watching. Please hit subscribe and notifications for more tips on how to increase your happiness, on more learned life lessons, things that I've learned myself that I wish to pass on to you. So yeah, hit the little subscribe button, the bell button, like button, whatever you want to do. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. All right, thanks.